Good evening, I'm Faye Kwan. Our top stories for tonight: Elon Musk to leave the Trump administration, and Trump says Harvard should have a 15% cap on foreign students. That's coming up on AWANI International. Now, for our top story for today, Tesla CEO Elon Musk is leaving his role in the US government a day after criticizing President Donald Trump over his signature spending bill. A White House official confirmed Musk's departure, telling Reuters that his offboarding will begin tonight. Musk's 130-day term as a special government employee was set to expire around May 30th. The Trump administration said efforts to restructure and shrink the federal government under the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, will continue. Earlier, Musk took to his social media platform X to thank Trump as his time with DOGE came to a close. Just the day before, he said Trump's spending bill was costly and counterproductive to DOGE's mission, which has fired tens of thousands of people. Musk's comments signaled a rare split with Trump, who Musk helped propel back to power as the largest donor of his 2024 election campaign. The billionaire had been a regular presence alongside Trump since his inauguration, but has gradually stepped back to focus on his ventures at SpaceX and Tesla. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump says that there should be a cap of around 15% on foreign students at Harvard University, while continuing to pressure it to submit its list of foreign students. Trump claims that many of those students were troublemakers caused by the radical left lunatics in this country. After Trump returned to the White House, he has targeted many US universities, warning that those that do not adjust their policies will face funding cuts. On May 22nd, the Department of Homeland Security announced the revocation of Harvard's eligibility for the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, one of the latest moves by the Trump administration aimed at pressuring the university. Harvard has filed a lawsuit against the federal government, and a federal judge in Massachusetts has temporarily blocked the ban. Previously, Harvard filed a lawsuit against the administration over federal funding cuts. According to data from Harvard, as of fall 2023, international students made up more than 27% of the total student population. Currently, Harvard enrolls nearly 6,800 international students and scholars from over 140 countries and regions, most of whom are pursuing graduate programs. We'll be back with more after the break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. European ports, including Antwerp, Bruges, are facing severe congestion due to US tariff policies, rising geopolitical tensions and climate change. According to the CEO of the Port of Belgium, the average waiting time for ships has increased from 32 hours at the end of March to 44 hours by mid-May. Several other ports in Europe are facing similar issues. Previously, uncertainty over US tariffs on Chinese goods caused delays and rerouting of shipments. After the suspension of additional tariffs on China, there has been a surge in cargo volume as companies rush to expedite exports, which leads to port congestion. A U.S. trade court has blocked U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs from going into effect. In a sweeping ruling, the court says that the president overstepped his authority by imposing across-the-board duties on imports from nations that sell more to the United States than they buy. The Court of International Trade said the U.S. Constitution gives Congress exclusive authority to regulate commerce with other countries that is not overridden by the president's emergency powers to safeguard the U.S. economy. The Trump administration, minutes later, filed a notice of appeal and questioned the authority of the court. The decisions of the Manhattan-based Court of International Trade, which hears disputes involving international trade and customs laws, can be appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit in Washington, D.C., and ultimately the U.S. Supreme Court. Trump has made charging U.S. importers tariffs on goods from foreign countries the central policy of his ongoing trade wars, which has severely disrupted global trade flows and roiled financial markets. Financial markets cheered the ruling as the U.S. dollar rallied following the court's order, surging against currencies such as the euro, yen and the Swiss franc in particular. Wall Street futures and equities across Asia also rose. The ruling, if it stands, blows a giant hole through Trump's strategy to use steep tariffs to wring concessions from trading partners, draw manufacturing jobs back to U.S. shores, and shrink a $1.2 trillion US goods trade deficit, which were among his key campaign promises. Meanwhile, analysts believe that the actions of the U.S. Trade Court that blocked Trump's tariffs from going into effect could be provocative to the president.
Well, in some ways, they'll be relieved because it might give us an opportunity to, end the trade war that is ongoing with the US and China and EU and so on. On the other hand, the courts interfering in the process can be provocative to President Trump. As much as I don't like tariffs and want to see them gone, the sort of legal interference in the elected president of the day I think can backfire. So I'm a little bit worried about it, even though obviously I'd prefer there not to be tariffs. It's interesting because the court has said that the president sort of overstepped in that he used emergency powers being trade deficits, which, are really not an emergency at all in economics. But that probably means, perhaps if he puts economic sanctions on Russia or Iran, to what extent can the courts interfere in that? They may decide that sanctions is of geopolitical significance, but tariffs are not. So it does get us into some murky waters, I think, legally into what's the role of the president and the Congress as opposed to the courts.
It is very hard to predict what will happen and what happens if, for example, the administration chooses not to comply with the ruling of the court. We have seen tension between court rulings and the current administration in the past. So it is, again, uncharted waters, very hard to tell what is happening, but at least this round, the administration and Donald Trump did not win.
Honoring the fallen soldiers who sacrificed their lives for the nation's well-being is a value that will continue to be upheld by Malaysia and the United States. United States Indo-Pacific Commander Admiral Samuel Paparo, who visited the National Monument on Thursday, said the iconic monument holds a unique significance.
Reverence for the fallen is a very strongly shared value between Malaysia and the United States. This memorial has a special meaning also to myself as the son of a U.S. Marine. The Marine Corps Memorial is sculpted by the same sculptor, Felix de Weldon, and it's that same evoking of the strength and the honor of those that have fallen in the service of their country.
Meanwhile, United States Ambassador to Malaysia, Edgar Kagan, said he was honoured by the opportunity to be at the site to pay tribute to the national heroes who sacrificed for Malaysia's independence.
We're also very honored for the opportunity to be able to show respect to the Malaysians who sacrificed so that Malaysia might be free. And we're looking forward to some very good meetings today, and we're delighted that the Prime Minister has agreed to see Admiral Paparo, and then he'll also be calling on the Minister of Defense. I think this just reflects the very strong relationship between our countries, particularly with regard to security cooperation.
Tariffs may be clear-cut, but non-tariff barriers pose a bigger challenge, especially for industries like palm oil. We speak to Professor Datuk Dr. Ahmad Ibrahim, Director of Tan Sri Omar Centre for STI Policy Studies, for his insights.
There are tariffs and there are non-tariffs. Tariffs are very objective. You can see what it is. For example, President Donald Trump just raised the tariff, and if everybody is levied the same tariff, then there's no issue, right? But if there is different tariffs for different countries, that is an issue. But non-tariff, this is more subjective. And this is actually created by countries. The one most active is the EU. And the US also to some extent, but I think the EU is the one which is most active in imposing non-tariff. So this, they argue, is based on issues related to safety, environment, and other things but essentially they want to protect their market or the competition. For example, palm oil. You see, I've been working for palm oil for many years, and palm oil has to deal with a lot of these non-tariff barriers. And actually, non-tariff barriers must be based on sound science, if it is environment, or sound evidence that it is something which will hurt the country, but basically it is disguised as protectionist measures. Palm oil, for example, is the most competitive oil because we are so productive in terms of yield and all this. So we pose a lot of competition to their local oils, and especially when you are using it for biofuel. So they go under the guise of biofuel. You must meet certain greenhouse gas emission. You must not deforest. So all these are very subjective. And so this creates more problem than tariff.
That report wraps up AWANI International. Stay tuned for our reports on the rivalries, strategies and the shifts behind the power affairs driving the new global order. Visit international.astroawani.com for more, and be sure to follow our social media accounts at Power Affairs. That's all for now. I'm Faye Kwan. Thank you for watching and good night.